Welcome to this deep dive into superconducting qubits. If you follow quantum computing news, you've likely seen gold chandeliers and complex chips from companies like IBM and Google. These are superconducting quantum computers. In this video, we will break down exactly how they work, moving from basic circuits to quantum processors. Before looking at the hardware, let's define our goal. To build a qubit, we need a physical system that acts like an artificial atom. It needs two distinct energy states, a ground state, which we call 0, and an excited state, which we call 1. Crucially, we must be able to put this system into a superposition of both states simultaneously. Unlike classical transistors, which are simply on or off switches, our device needs to preserve quantum mechanical properties. How do we build this? Engineers started with a standard LC circuit. This consists of a capacitor, which stores energy in an electric field, and an inductor, which stores energy in a magnetic field. When connected, electrons slosh back and forth between them at a specific frequency. This is a harmonic oscillator, acting very much like a pendulum swinging back and forth. However, a simple LC circuit has a fatal flaw for quantum computing. It is linear. The energy required to jump from state 0 to state 1 is exactly the same as the energy to go from 1 to 2 and 2 to 3. This is called an equidistant energy ladder. If we try to control the qubit with microwave pulses, we might accidentally push it up the ladder into higher energy states, destroying our qubit. We need a way to make the states unique. The solution is to replace the standard inductor with a component called a Josephson Junction. This is the heart of a superconducting qubit. It is made of two superconducting metal layers separated by a microscopically thin insulator. Electrons tunnel through this barrier in pairs, creating a nonlinear inductance. This nonlinearity is the magic ingredient that changes everything. By introducing the Josephson Junction, we change the energy landscape. Instead of a perfect parabola with equal spacing, the potential well becomes anharmonic. Notice how the gap between state 0 and 1 is now distinct from the gap between 1 and 2. This frequency difference allows us to use lasers or microwaves to precisely target the 0 to 1 transition without triggering any other states. The most successful design using this principle is the Transmon Qubit. It features two large capacitor pads bridged by a Josephson Junction. These large pads help reduce sensitivity to electric charge noise, which was a major problem in earlier designs. This makes the Transmon stable enough to perform complex calculations, and it is the standard architecture used by major tech companies today. These circuits are incredibly sensitive. Any thermal energy from the environment would randomize the qubit state immediately. That is why they reside inside a dilution refrigerator. This machine, often called the golden chandelier, cools the chip down to 15 millikelvin. That is colder than deep space. At these temperatures, the metal becomes a superconductor with zero electrical resistance. To communicate with the qubits inside the fridge, we use microwave pulses sent down coaxial cables. By tuning the frequency of the pulse to the qubit's specific energy gap, usually around 5 GHz, we can rotate the qubit state. We read the data back by measuring how the qubit alters a microwave signal passing nearby. To summarize, superconducting qubits are artificial atoms built from electronic circuits. They offer fast gate speeds and can be manufactured using standard lithography techniques. However, they face challenges with noise and require expensive cooling infrastructure. Despite this, they remain one of the most promising paths toward building a practical, large-scale quantum computer.
If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit codelucky.com for more such useful content.